Today we're going to install a Thinkware U3000 dash camera in this brand new 2024 Mazda CX-5. We're going to show you how we mount the dash camera on the front windshield. We're going to remove the A-pillar, show you how we safely run the wires behind the A-pillar, how we run the wires from the front of the vehicle all the way to the back, how we actually run the wires into the hatch, how we actually connect it to the vehicle. We're going to give you 3 different methods: OBD2, Fusetaps, and Hardwire. And the only reason why this customer is actually getting a brand new dash cam is because his prior Mazda CX-5 was actually involved in a collision. And as you can see right there, quite the collision it was. And this is actually this customer's 3rd Mazda, believe it or not. So now we're going to install the Thinkware U3000 in his brand new Mazda CX-5. Let's go. So we're going to start by removing the weather stripping that's right next to the A-pillar. I like to use one of my pry tools just to get my fingers underneath there, and then I just pull it back. We use our fingers and put it in there, and we pull out the A-pillar, and then there's a little connector that you have to kind of turn sideways and push down in order to actually completely remove the A-pillar. Now, the next step there is I typically use like a little pick, and you need to push in the speaker adapter so that you can actually unplug the tweeter from the A-pillar. That way the A-pillar is now completely removed, exposing the airbag and the wiring. Okay, so what I like doing is actually taking the dash camera. I have the harness prepped to it. Typically, I like to use some nice Tessa tape. It's just a nice fabric tape that's used on a lot of higher German vehicles. And a lot of the domestic and import vehicles have actually started to adopt this nice fleece tape that's hidden underneath your dash. Then I take the actual wiring off the dash camera and I tuck the wiring into the headliner, moving slowly over towards the A-pillar. So the next step is actually to take the rear camera cable, and we want to actually tuck this safely behind the airbag and then slowly pull the wiring through. We obviously don't want to disrupt the airbag in any way at all, but we're just going to completely pull it right through. That way we can start fishing it to the back of the vehicle. So our next step is to take the hardwire cable, also known as the parking mode cable, and we actually want to tie strap it directly to the wiring harness that is in behind the airbag. And then we are going to tie strap it to it and then cut those tie straps off so it's nice and clean. Seeing we are now done with all the wiring in behind the A-pillar, we can take the A-pillar panel, replug in the tweeter, and reattach it back to the A-pillar and put it in its factory location again. So now we want to run the wire from the front to the back for the rear dash camera. And what a lot of people do is they actually try and tuck it in around the B-pillar. But the B-pillar on Mazdas is really tight, and typically you're not going to get any wires in there. Now, some of the vehicles you actually will, but what I prefer to do is actually take one of our rods that actually allows us to go in behind, up high, in behind the B-pillar, and we actually fish the wire right through nicely, and then we tuck all the weather stripping back up again and continue going to the back of the vehicle all the way to the hatch area. So now we're in the back of the vehicle at the hatch, and we actually want to actually take the grommet off that goes from the interior of the vehicle to the hatch. And there's 4 clips on here, and you need to be able to know how to take them off correctly. If you actually stick the wrong tool in there, you could cause damage to these clips, which could then also cause water leakage. So it's very important that you do this correctly, or hire a professional like us at Safe Drive Solutions in order to actually take care of this so you don't have any challenges. So now that we have the grommet off, we're going to fish the wire through and then slowly take off the weather stripping so we can tuck the wiring in for the rear camera cable. And then we're going to pull the rest of the wiring through out by where the grommet is. So now the next step is to actually fish the wire through the factory grommet. We like using our specialty fish tool in order to do this. Some people may use a tie strap, a coat hanger, all sorts of other things. Keep in mind, we use our tools for the maximum safety and efficiency. Some other tools, if you end up poking a wire, cutting it in half, you could cause some other challenges, so you really want to be careful when completing this task. So next step, we're going to remove the trim panel on the hatch, so that way we can actually see what's in behind there, and we can run the wires up and hide the wires behind that trim panel in the hatch. So now that we have that panel off, we're going to fish the wires into the hatch area, and we're going to see exactly where we're going to mount the rear camera. We're going to take all the excess wire, we're going to tie strap it up or tape it up depending on how you want to do it, and we're going to tie strap it to harnessing that's up in the hatch. I like putting all the extra wire up there and securing it. I find that's a good place to hide it, especially in this hatch on the Mazda CX-5. Now we're going to put the Mazda panel back on and make sure that the wire is actually poking out. That's going to be going to the rear camera. We're going to clean the surface where the rear camera is going to be mounted and then mount the actual rear camera to the rear hatch. Nice and clean, just how I like it. There are 3 ways to install the dash camera into the vehicle. The first way is using the OBD2 cable. The Thinkware OBD2 cable will actually plug into a Mazda, and we've done lots of Mazdas with an OBD2 cable. We've not had any challenges at all. It simply plugs in directly underneath the dash. When you do go in for service, there's a good chance that the service place will actually unplug it in order for them to scan the codes. So just make sure that you actually plug it back in when you pick up your vehicle from getting any service done at the car dealer. Option number 2 is Fusetaps. Now, when using a Fusetap on a Mazda, I don't recommend using a Fusetap for these vehicles at all. I find that the fuses don't go in, they're a little flimsy, and they don't actually lock in place. So I recommend not using Fusetaps, but we know that some people are going to, and if you are, just make sure you are using an ATM Low Pro. That is what's meant for this vehicle, but you are going to find that it doesn't really sit nicely in the fuse locations. Option number 3, which most people are not going to be comfortable doing. This is more for a professional installer. And what we do here is we actually take the fuse box and we actually go to the wiring on the back side of the fuse box. And we actually strip it back, we solder nicely, we use electrical tape so it's nicely protected, and we hide all the wiring. A lot of people will call this hardwiring directly to the vehicle. And now we'll just put the kick panel back on and the sill plate and move on up to mounting the front dash camera. Okay, now the windshield's been cleaned. We're going to take the dash camera, we're going to plug the cables right into the top of the dash camera, make sure they're plugged in all the way, and we're going to log our phone directly to the dash camera to make sure that we're mounting it in the right place at the right angle and setting up the camera. Then we're going to rip off the 3M tape and mount the dash camera to its final destination. There you have it, how to install a Thinkware U3000 into a brand new Mazda CX-5. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you are looking for professional installation in Greater Vancouver or Greater Toronto, Canada, please look us up, safedrivesolutions.com. Or if you just want to support us by purchasing one of our products, take a look at the Shop Now tab. We appreciate all the support from everyone. Thanks again. Cheers.